Hello, everyone! Welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 397. I'm Andrew. Thanks for being here. So, some weeks back, I watched a movie called, well, it has a lot of different titles. Uh, IMD... For some reason, my mouse is being weird. IMDb has it listed as Crazy Samurai Musashi, and Amazon lists it as Crazy Samurai: 400 versus 1. Now, from what I understand, the whole legend was Miyamoto Musashi fought off 588, so I don't know where they got 400 from, but, you know, whatever. That was just the... Um, Shit, did the stream freeze? What's going on? Hang on a second. No, no, it's going. Weird. Now this is a film I had heard of. It came out a few years back at some festival circuit. And its big gimmick was the movie is a 70-minute single take fight scene against one dude and 400 others. So it's a 70-minute long single take samurai fight against one dude versus 400. And thank you, Chaos. And my first thought was, well, that is ambitious as all heck. I would be shocked if that was good. I would be shocked if it's watchable. That sounds almost impossible to do well. I mean, unless they've got, really cleverly hidden cuts and stuff. So I finally got around to watching the movie. And what I found very interesting is it appears that the opening scene was shot sometime else. I get the sense that the 70-minute one-take fight scene was shot like a decade ago, because it looks like almost looks like it's on a VHS camcorder. It's not that bad, but it's definitely a different film stock. The wraparound sequences look like they were filmed later. Like it's like, let's do this 70-minute single take fight scene, and then shopped it around for 5 years or something, trying to get someone to pick it up. And they're like, okay, but you need to put a wraparound story on it. So they shot an opening and an ending. And it's really glaring because the film stock is completely different. The cinematography is completely different. But, that's fine. However, making movies is hard. I watched probably 20 minutes or so before I had to turn it off. It's ambitious, and I applaud them for their gumption, and but it's unwatchable for me anyway. I don't know if anyone can actually sit through it. It's really boring. The problem is, the multiple problems is the fight scene was clearly done pretty low budget and done with maybe 30 people, because it's supposed to be one guy versus 400, but he's only versus about 25 people, and it's the same 25 people, at least for the 17 so minutes I watched. What happens is, the camera's behind. Most of what I saw, the camera was over the shoulder, and he'd face off against a crowd of about 25 people, and they'd all, at each other, and then someone would take a swing and he'd block. And then someone would take a swing and he'd block. And then someone would, come in with a haymaker and he'd slash, and the person would go, and fall off camera. And then if you're watching, you can see them sneak around in the back again. They only had like 25 dudes who keep... And you'll notice that the bodies don't stick around because the scene keeps moving all over the place. And, I mean, they're doing what they have to do. Like, it would be almost impossible to get literally 400 guys or literally 100 guys, right? And choreograph a 70-some minute fight scene, single take. Actors don't have people don't have the stamina to do that. Which is why the choreography, what it looks like is it looks like the general beats of the 70-some minute fight were planned out. But only so far as, okay, we're going to be here, and we're going to face these guys, and then we're going to be here, and we want to have one bit where we do this, and then we're going to be here, right? It was very general, like the script of an adult film, right? Where the adult film seems like, I don't think they had much more, I don't think this scene had much more than a premise. I don't believe that this was scripted at all. I think the actors came on set that day, and the producer, director, or the creative people, whoever, says, okay, here's the scene. Here's your broad archetype of a character. Here's your broad archetype of a character. Here's the general scenario. And I am going to rely on your improv abilities to make sense of a plot, a story, characters, character arcs. And we're going to do this in a single take. I'm not going to bother to edit any of it. In fact, we're not shooting sound because miking naked people is very hard, and I don't want to pay someone to hold a boom. So, go, right? And I'm sure many adult actors are very good at improv, and many are not, right? But you watch this stuff and you're like, wow, this is like embarrassingly bad. This is hard to watch. I can't get into this at all. Right? It's the same thing with this, adult films have a premise. I mean, some do. The panoply of adult entertainment is myriad. It is a cornucopia of variety. Sometimes there is plot. Sometimes there is not. Sometimes there's a vague attempt at plot and character. But that's the kind of feeling I got watching this movie, right? Or watching the first 17 minutes. And I had to turn it off because it was just boring. The action was understandably dull and slow and boring. And I'm like, I can't watch nearly 80 minutes of this. And I can't imagine it increases in tempo or energy as it goes. But I admire it for taking a big swing. We're gonna do a 77-minute single take fight, but sword fight between one guy and what we hope looks like a crowd of hundreds of dudes, right? That is a big, impressive swing. And sometimes sometimes you have to fail miserably to figure out where that line is. And, I admire them for, they did it, apparently. I mean, I only watched the first 20 minutes. The last 60 minutes could just be static for all I know. They're like, no one's going to watch past this point. But yeah, it's funny because, I used to, many years ago, I had said that there were only like 3 movies I had ever stopped watching. Video games I would usually give like 5 hours. Television shows I'd give like 5 episodes. Books I'd give like 50 pages. Movies are, unless we're talking about some weird movie that's 9 hours long, movies are usually, hour and a half, 2 hours. I can spare that. It was rare that I ever just wouldn't see a movie through to end credits. There were a couple. There were three at one time. One was Babe, one was Anchorman, and I forget what the other one was. It's probably some really crappy independent film that I just couldn't sit through. Um, Nowadays, now that I'm halfway through my lifespan, if I'm lucky, um, yeah, I don't give movies. You know, if you're boring the hell out of me, I will turn you off at the 20-minute mark. I ain't got time for this. I've got finite life. I ain't spending it on a movie I ain't enjoying. So, says the guy who's in 2 weeks put in, I think, over 100 hours in Monster Hunter. Um, anyway, Crazy Samurai or Samurai versus 1 versus 400 or whatever Amazon's calling it. It's a curiosity, probably worth a look. I'd be more interested in like a behind the scenes documentary kind of uh thing rather than watch the movie. It's just, man, like the longest fight scene I can think of is the one in They Live, between Rowdy Roddy Piper and Keith David. Um, that that fight is like 6 or 7 minutes long. It's incredibly long. But there's also editing. Um, yeah. And so far as there was, what also interested me is the 1 versus a 400 thing. They did not seem to be cutting. Like I noticed one spot where they may have cut, but other than the one spot within the first couple of minutes, they seemed to go a solid 12 minutes or so without cutting. If they did, they hit it really, really well. But yeah. So fun idea. It's an interesting curiosity. I don't think it works at all, and I couldn't sit through it. So Daredevil. New series came out on Disney Plus last week, I believe. I watched the 2 episode premiere and I liked it quite a bit. Thought it had some really nice cinematography. Thought the fights were fun. Enjoyed revisiting the characters some years later. All good, and it ended on a fun cliffhanger. So, if you haven't watched it, I'm going to spoil. It's only on episode 3, but I'm going to spoil what happens. So, if you haven't seen it, here's your warning. So, a guy wanders into the subway at night and sees another guy, completely empty subway platform, except for one guy being roughed up by 2 other guys. And the Good Samaritan breaks up the fight, and the other 2 start beating on him. And as he's defending himself, one of the bullies falls onto the subway tracks and gets pasted by a passing subway train. When that happens, one of the bullies pulls out a gun and then pulls out his badge. Uh-oh. So this guy gets arrested for murdering a police officer. So Matt Murdock, of course, tries to defend him, and his big what he's trying to do is find the guy that the cops were bullying. So he tracks him down to his apartment, and at the end of the episode, he's like, "Haha, I've found you. Now you need to go testify so that the guy who tried to save you doesn't spend the rest of his life in prison." And he uses his super hearing. He's like, "Uh-oh, looks like the cops have found you. Run out the fire escape, go to such and such address and talk to Dave, and he'll hide you until court. Go, run like you've never run before." And the guy goes out the window and down the fire escape, and then the cops burst in, clearly there to murder the witness, but they find the blind lawyer there. So they try to murder the blind lawyer, because they don't think he'll see it coming. So Matt, of course, beats the stuffing out of them. Well, he takes plenty shots himself. And he knocks one down who hits his head on the floor at an odd angle, and he's not moving. And you as the audience are like, oh shoot, he may have just beaten both of these cops to death. And he screams in anger, his face all bloody, and that's the cliffhanger of episode 2. Chaos says, I like it, but not having Daredevil in a Daredevil show is a bold choice. I'm not clear what you mean by Daredevil is not in the Daredevil show. He is. I guess you mean it should have more Daredevil? He's in it enough for my taste, anyway. Well, I mean, I guess the idea is the way the show is starting out. It starts out with Daredevil, and he fails to save somebody, so he does the whole Spider-Man never again leaves his suit in the garbage. So by the end of episode 3, yeah, I guess he's not in the suit for episodes 2 and 3 and the last half of episode 1, but I mean, he's gonna put it back on. For me anyway, Daredevil and Matt Murdock are the same person, so well, whatever. So anyway, pretty good cliffhanger, because you're thinking, ooh, that's interesting, because now if Matt hangs around, they might find out that he's Daredevil, and Kingpin is now the mayor of New York, and he's made it very clear that if you pull this vigilante horse crap, I will come down on you like a ton of bricks. Chaos says, we see plenty of Matt Murdock, but we only see Daredevil so far for 5 minutes. Well, yeah, we see him at the start of episode 1, the bad thing happens, and he gives up being Daredevil. That's the story being told, though, so we wouldn't expect to see Daredevil after he gives it up. I mean, he'll put the suit back on, obviously, but plus we just got these characters back. Did they really need to do that in episode 1? Yeah, that was an interesting choice. But comic books rarely are things final. So right, so he's in a bit of a pickle now. Am I going to get in trouble? Can I, because what it looks like, because if I just leave the scene, what it looks like is the guy who was the witness, the cops came to talk of him, and he murdered them. So now the witness will never show up, or the witness looks like a cop killer. It's like, there's so much we could do here. And then episode 3 starts, and they do absolutely nothing with it at all, which is weird. I'm not even sure if one of the cops died. One of them just... They seem to have just, like, made a gentleman's agreement to just not bring this up for some reason. Like, I mean, it seems to me that Matt could have gotten away with this. It's like, yeah, I tried to, the cops came to and assaulted me. And I kicked the snot out of them. Because I've been boxing my entire life. My dad's a, locally well-known boxer when he was alive. They underestimated me because I'm blind, and I punched the stuffing out of him. He probably could have got away with that and won the case easily. But, I mean, that would have been too easy, perhaps, for an interesting dramatic story. But they also just do nothing with it. The cop, like, confronts him in the bathroom of the courthouse. And he's like, blind guy who can fight, huh? And they just kind of leer at each other, and then nothing happens. They just don't do anything with nothing comes of it. It's so weird. Mutually assured destruction. Yeah, I guess, but it didn't work for me. It felt like I was watching episode 4 and had missed episode 3. Like, I'm like, well, what happened to the 2 cops that he kicked the snot out of? Are they both okay? Is one of them dead? Because I didn't see where the other one went. One of them's alive and just had this crap beat out of him. I guess he's just not gonna say anything? Why isn't Matt? I mean, I have to make up reasons because the story doesn't tell me. So I wasn't too terribly happy with that. YouTube is not receiving enough video? Oh, for Christ's sake. I don't know what to do about that. Yeah, my K-bips are very low right now, and it's dropping some frames. Um, yeah, I, I can't do anything about that except just hope it works better. All right, it's out of red and into yellow. Hopefully, it trends in that direction. Boy, yeah, as long as it doesn't do this during the charity events, I'm happy. So, so Matt, so we get through the whole court case, and a lot of weird stuff happens during the court case. I mean, I realize that it's not solely a legal drama, and they don't want to spend a whole hell of a lot of time on this, but and I'm a legal lay person, like as lay gets. I don't know whether some things are correct or some things are incorrect, but a lot of stuff happened. I'm like, Matt, you gonna object to that? That strikes me as a no-no. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I mean that feels wrong. Uh, for example, my understanding of how this stuff works is on closing arguments. Uh, there's exceptions to everything, of course, but the defense goes last, but the prosecution can always have a rebuttal to something that the defense brings up. So what we see is we see Matt's closing statement, and then we see the prosecution, which looks like their closing statement, but I guess it's a rebuttal to the defense. But he brings up stuff that seems objectionable to me. Like he starts lying about what, and he's like, did you know that when you're hit by a subway train, your body just liquefies and all of your bones are turned into powder, but you're not dead? Oh no, you're alive and conscious until they back the train off of you. I'm like, Matt, you gonna object to this? Because it seems to me that that would have had to, I would be surprised to learn that that's actually correct. That sounds wrong to me. Also, I don't know if you're allowed to use such incendiary language, particularly if that was never established. Like, I would think that you would have to bring up some expert to say, okay, expert person who has credentials, what happens to the human body when it's hit by a subway train? Right? Now, maybe they shot that, maybe they didn't. Maybe we're just to assume that this was established at trial at some point. But I mean, also Matt has like a slam dunk case here because there's no evidence against this guy other than the word of a cop, which for a lot of people, particularly New Yorkers, that's not going to mean much, particularly when half the police department is sitting in the gallery like, and it's like, oh, Jesus, where they're intimidating people, right? Plus, Matt's whole defense is like, this guy, it's like, so, what's your story? And it's like, well, I bought a bouquet of flowers, and I was taking it home to my wife because I had just bought us a new apartment, and we were going to celebrate, and we were going to move into the apartment this weekend. So, seems kind of weird that on my way home, with the bouquet of flowers in hand, after already establishing that I'm a good Samaritan who steps in at the drop of a hat to help anyone in need, Chaos or anyone in the chat, can you tell me if this is streaming all right? Because I've got really bad numbers displaying, but it looks like it's still streaming. Matt could have been like, yeah, kind of weird that this guy who's a good Samaritan, always stepping in to help people in need, would take his bouquet of flowers and just suddenly decide to murder cops, just for funsies. That's odd. That doesn't seem reasonable at all. Working okay for you? Okay, great. And then he could say, okay, here are the flowers we found on the subway platform. Here is the receipt from the flower shop that night. Here's I'm gonna put the realtor on the stand. It's like, did this guy sign papers for a new apartment? Yes, he did. Are these them? Yes, they are. None of that, as far as we see, none of that stuff is presented. His entire case is, he's a nice guy. And the prosecution is like, yeah, sometimes nice guys can do bad things. I'm like, this is a terrible trial. It buffered 2 times once I mentioned it. Oh, well, now it's back to green. So hopefully things are okay now. Um, so I'm not that crazy. Nice. Yeah, episode 3 didn't work for me. I found the trial very weird. Um, and I found the oh, and the very ending was also really weird. And so it turns out that the Good Samaritan is a masked crime fighter as well. He's a different superhero. And it was one of them where I was like, I didn't catch it. I mean, I love the fact that the Marvel movies and shows don't don't hide who these people are. If you know the names, you know who these, and you're familiar with the name from the comic books, you're like, oh, that's that character. They don't like try and hide it much, right? Like just rename the character so you don't know who it is. It's like, no, that's the guy. If you recognize the name, you recognize the name. It's not going to be a surprise when he turns out to be this particular superhero. Now, his name rang familiar to me, but I was like, I've heard that name, but yeah, wasn't placing it. And then it was revealed which superhero it was, and it was like, oh, is that right? I looked it up. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. But anyway, so he gets outed as that superhero in trial as a character thing. Look, he's a superhero. He does all these good things, and it's like, well, Wilson Fisk is cracking down on superheroes and vigilante justice. So, sorry for outing you, but you can't put the suit back on anymore. And the way the show presents it is he is found not guilty, and the way the show's presented, he immediately puts his suit back on that night and goes out to fight crime and then gets shot in the head, which makes him seem like a bumbling fool. Like, wow, you were really bad at this. Someone just walked up and shot him in the head. You think he was in crime fighting mode? You think he would have had a little bit more self-awareness? I don't know. Think it would have worked better if he were just out with or without his family, just enjoying an evening stroll, and someone, because he was just thinking to. I don't think it works very well when he's in his outfit. One, I mean, he does say it's like being this character is who I am, but I don't know. It just didn't work for me. A lot of episode 3 just really did not work for me. Enjoying the show overall, but yeah, that was not to my taste. Why is my mouse not moving? But there we go. I been having difficulties with the mouse sticking, and I finally I changed the batteries, and I finally moved the dongle to a different USB port, and then it worked just fine. It's been working fine for days, but it's working fine now, but I don't know what the hell's going on. Weird. So Daredevil. Chaos says, so far it's paced about as well as Iron Fist Season 1. Well, I mean, it's better than Iron Fist Season 1, because Iron Fist Season 1 is garbage. Mainly because Iron Fist was garbage. And nothing against the actor, nothing against the character, the character of Iron Fist in general, but Danny Rand, the character as written in the Iron Fist show, was just a unlikable horse's ass. Like, I love what were they, the Meacham kids? I was more invested in them. I liked, what's her face? Colleen Wing. I liked everyone except Danny Rand. He was just an insufferable pain in the bum. God, he sucked. Um, so far, the pacing of the show, for me, is fine. Be interesting to see how it happens, because with Netflix, uh, unless I'm forgetting something, every single one of those shows, with the exception of Defenders, which is 8 episodes, all of the 13 episode ones, even the ones I really liked, all of them were a few episodes too long. None of them should have been 13 episodes. All of them dragged at some point, usually in the middle somewhere. Uh, my understanding is uh, Daredevil Born Again is 18 episodes, but they are only doing the first 9 now, and they've redone parts of it. Maybe that's why there was the episode 2 to episode 3 I found so jarring. Maybe there's a lot of that's kind of the result of reshoots and shifting gears, changing from an original plan to a new one. Don't know. Whoop! Shoot. So the show's just too slow for you? Well, I mean, okay. For me, pacing's fine. There's a lot of stuff in episode 3 that wasn't working. Uh, da, 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 da. So I liked Daredevil. Let's see, Netflix shows. Daredevil season 1 I thought was pretty darn good. Dragged in the center. Daredevil season 2 was half really good and half absolutely friggin' abysmal. Like half of it genuinely sucked. Daredevil, like all the Punisher stuff was pretty good. All the Elektra was really good. I really liked the actor, what she brought to that role. Unfortunately, I think her part in the story and the whole hand business with digging a hole was boring and stupid. Um, 3 was pretty good. Uh, Again, way too long, dragged in the center. Uh, Iron Fist was just thoroughly bad all the time. Both of the Power Man, what the hell's his name? Um, I forget his name. Uh, his 2 seasons were quite good. Again, too long. The 3, boy, I am blanking on the character names. Kristen Ritter show. What the hell is the name of that show? Jessica Jones. Um, all 3 of them were pretty good. All 3 of them were too long. Defenders was bad, but at least it was only 8 episodes. Um, oh, yeah, and there were the 2 Punisher shows, which were pretty good, except they were too long. For some reason, Netflix is like, nope, you will have exactly 13 episodes, whether the story calls for it or not. All right, that's to your detriment. Luke Cage, thank you. Golly. So, yeah, Daredevil. Off to a decent start, I think. We'll see where it goes from here. I hope She-Hulk comes to visit. I have no idea where this is in the. I was wondering if he'd have the same outfit he had in the couple episodes he was in She-Hulk, with the red and yellow suit. But no, he has the what looks like mainly the one he had at the end of season 3. So, let's see. I mean, I think what's her name? Karen Page, I think her name is. I think she's out in San Francisco. I think She-Hulk's in L.A. if I'm not mistaken. Uh, so maybe they can hang out or something. Maybe Matt needs a break and goes to the West Coast. Does the no wait meme come out of one of the Punisher shows? I don't know what the no wait meme is, so no idea. The teaser trailer for Born Again shows that he has several suits. Oh, okay. I either didn't see it or don't remember. So, Daredevil. Uh, I like me my superhero stuff. except the ones I haven't seen, because you know that series I've been doing on or I did for a while a couple of years ago, where I went back and watched the superhero movies that I didn't see, and they were all bad. Like, I really just nailed my decisions. That's like, I think I'll skip that one. It doesn't look very good. Boy, I'd bat 1,000 on that so far. I revisited that one recently, and I looked at Ghost Rider, and yeah, that was bad too. So, I'm like, there's a good like 20, 25 superhero movies that I haven't seen. They can't all be genuinely bad, right? Like one of them's got to be. Oh, come on, that one was good. I mean, everyone poops on this movie, but this one's actually good. It's like, oh, the Fantastic Four too. That was actually quite good. Well, actually, I haven't seen Fantastic Four 2 yet. I think that one's the next one. Uh, Boy, it is tough to focus on the things I like because, God, those movies. Ah, man, bad. Let's see, what did I watch? I watched so the original, the Fantastic Four, Constantine, and I know a lot of people actually like Constantine, but I thought it was bad. Um, Superman Returns, bad. Um, Elektra, bad. Catwoman, bad. Um, and these movies are not just, they're not very good. No, genuinely bad movies. Like, oh, it's not just, it's middle, it's whatever, it's forgettable. No, genuinely bad movies. Uh, just, mm. Let's see. It's the meme of the guy at a kitchen table saying no and wait several times, looking panicked. Uh, I don't know that meme, so. um. All right, that's enough of that. So, let's see. Yeah, maybe Green Lantern's actually good, right? How bad could it be? So, Monster Hunter Wilds. I've been playing that a lot, and uh, I found out that if you're going to take on Tempered Arkveld, or Tempered Gormagala for that matter, uh, you should probably invest in some high rank armor, unless you plan on just not getting hit. And not getting hit, that ain't my style. um, so I completed the game in low rank armor. Uh, and the last fight with Arkveld was a thing, man. Yeah, he carted me twice. I went through two carts and all of my healing, but I got him down, and was actually kind of surprised to learn that that's the end of the game. I really like Monster Hunter Wilds, except for the fact that the textures don't stream correctly on at least the PS5 Pro. Um, that's that's a shame. Let's see. Chaos says it's not really Green Lantern's passable, but I wouldn't call it good. I mean, at this point, I'm not even looking for good. I'm looking for anything that's not bad. you know, Even if it's just kind of, I'm just like, meh would be fine. Um, so Monster Hunter Wilds, interestingly, hope I'm not spoiling anything for anyone, but the uh, the flagship monster, the monster on the box art, is actually the final boss of the game, which is surprising because that's never been the case in the games I've played. Uh, all of the Monster Hunter games I've played, the flagship is the assumed boss, but then there's a real boss at the very end. Um, but no, Arkveld is just the boss, and it's a hell of a fight, but it's presented like it's just another fight. So I excitedly went on social media. I'm like, man, I just fought Arkveld. It was a hell of a thing. It just was bouncing me all over the desert. It was great. It was a lot of fun. And then, like a couple hours later, I came back and I was like, wait, that's it? Where's the rest of the game? Is That's it? That was the final boss? That's the end? Oh. It are they doing that whole Monster Hunter Rise thing where they'll put the rest of the game in a title update? I mean, I don't feel like the game is lacking in content. I feel like I got my money's worth. I feel like there's enough monsters in the game. I'm not saying that it's like, oh, it's lacking in content. Not at all. But the way that final fight is presented, it doesn't feel like the conclusion of the game. I think that could have worked as the final fight if it were actually presented as such. But like there's a bunch of unresolved plot stuff. Like the whole frenzy thing that's going on. Well, that was dropped like a hot stone. I mean, is Rove okay? I mean, I assume he's fine. We beat Gormagala, so I guess they made a vaccine and or medicine and fixed Rove right up. I don't think we ever talked to him again. I mean, you can find him wandering around and he seems fine, but it's like the story doesn't address it. Did did Fabio or Fabius or whatever his name is, was he like satisfied? Did he just go home? Also, the way that Alma and your character and Nata are talking at the end, it feels like they're going to do more stuff. Not in like a next game or something, but it's like, okay, now we need to go do more stuff. And there's no like credit roll or anything. The credits roll at the end of low rank, but it doesn't roll at the end of high rank. So I spent a couple hours trying to figure out where the hell the next mission was. Until I'm like, do I have to be a certain hunter rank to unlock the next mission or something? Until I went online, I'm like, oh no, that's just the end of the story. Uh, my problem is not the amount of content in the game, to be clear. My problem is the story of Monster Hunter Wilds doesn't end. It just stops. It's just like, we're done now. Oh. Oh, okay. Seriously, I spent like 3 hours trying to figure out where the hell the next story mission was. I was like, well, this is weird. Usually it's just like there's a little, here's your next mission, go talk to this person. Like, so I ground monsters a bit, get my hunter rank up. Do I have to be hunter rank 50 or something? Nope, that's just the end. And I think another reason is the Arkveld, the final Arkveld fight is presented like any other boss. It's just, you go on a quest and you go out into the environment. It's not in a special boss arena like the low rank boss is. It's just, you fight them out in the Windward Plains. And you chase them all over the map. And you kill them where you kill them. And yay! And then you carve and then you guys go, it's like, hey, we're doing some good stuff. And we need to find out what, how life will move on with Arkveld. I know he can do it. And as I mentioned, there's a bunch of other plot threads, and the game is just, that's it. It just ends there. Or rather, it stops. Kind of reminds me of like a recent movie that does the same thing as the Battle Angel Alita movie. Or what did they call it? I think they called it Alita Battle Angel, whatever. Fun movie. I really quite enjoyed it. Except it doesn't end, it just stops. You know? You need to have an ending. You don't need to tie it in a bow so tight that there's nowhere ever to go, but it needs to end. It can even have a bit of a cliffhanger. It can have a tease. That's fine, but it needs to end. You can't just stop. It's like, well, that's 2 hours. Stop. Okay. So, yeah. Jared says, I've decided to wait till the game has more content. Feels a little unfinished in terms of world monsters tied to it. Well, I mean, they're going to be adding stuff for the next year or year and a half until they come out with the Master Rank expansion, which will have a bunch more stuff. But I mean, if you play like me, it took me like 90 hours to reach the end of the game. I know a lot of people are, pushing it. It's only been 2 weeks, but some people are, pushing into, 140 hours in the game. Now, I've had the week off of work, so I've had plenty of time to just sit my ass on the couch and just play it from morning till night. But yeah, I've been having a ton of fun. I feel that there's a solid roster of monsters to fight. I feel like the story is of an appropriate length. I was just caught off guard as to where it stops because it doesn't feel like a natural stopping point. Again, if they would have resolved the frenzy thing and put Arkveld in like an arena, or at least framed it in a way where, like uh, Xenojiva, what's the weird one? Ashara Ishvalda. Those are clearly boss fights. This is the last fight of the game. This is the end, right? Xenojiva was clearly, unambiguously the end of Monster Hunter World. Shari Shvalda was clearly, unambiguously the end of Iceborne. Or am I getting that backwards? I think maybe sure. Whichever one was Iceborne. In Trine 3 Ultimate, Cetus was clearly the end of the story. Anyway, there was like Dire Morales was in 3 Ultimate, and Fatalis and Safi'jiiva and Elatrion were added as post game monsters later. But those were clearly the end of the story boss monsters. Those two floaty Narwa and whatever at the end of Rise were clearly, once they added them to the game, those were clearly the end bosses of Monster Hunter Rise. I didn't play Sunbreak, so I have no idea who the boss is of that. But for me anyway, and maybe it just me, Arkveld was not clearly the end boss of high rank. It didn't feel like this is the boss of the game. This is the end of the game. There's still post game, of course, but it wasn't clear to me that this is the game. I clocked no indicators that this is the final fight. It just felt like any other, we're gonna go hunt Arkveld now. And I spent 3 hours trying to figure out how the hell to continue the game. And I was like, oh, there is no continue. It's done. I mean, there's plenty other stuff to do. You can, fight all the monsters and build better armor sets and stuff, which is fun, and I enjoy doing that. Although I did find out that, again, um, so after getting knocked around the map by Arkveld, I said, I'm probably going to have to update my armor set. So I got the rankings go up to 8. I think I got like a rank 6 chest piece, and then I got 3 more, I think rank 4 or 5 pieces because they had some gathering skill like a geologist on it that I wanted because I was going around mining. And then I still had 1 low rank piece, and that seemed to be enough. And I was fighting Gore Magala, I was fighting Arkveld, and they were knocking me around a bit, but I was still managing it. And then I was like, okay, time to take on the tempered versions of this. I'd played the tempered versions of the other Apexes, Raydao, Neuter, and stuff like that, and was doing fine. But then I fought tempered Arkveld, and it smushed me like a bug. Like, small swipes were taking off like 80% of my health. And Arkveld is really difficult to not get hit, if you're me, anyway. Um, so I didn't just cart, I failed the quest. Same thing to tempered Gore Magala. You can get away with weak ass armor for pretty much any if you're a Monster Hunter veteran and you know how to play the game. You don't need particularly strong armor to take care of even tempered versions of most monsters, but tempered Gore Magala and Arkveld are not playing around. You need to invest in some decent armor. so so I actually built a armor set that's mostly rank 8. I think one piece is like rank 6 or something like that, but that seems to be fine. They still hit pretty hard, but they're only taking like 30-40% of my health off at a time now instead of like 80. And not on the huge screen clearing AoE attacks. I'm talking little bites and slaps where it's just ragdolling me across the... Actually, that brings up an interesting point. Far as I can tell, all of the Hunter gets knocked over animations are canned. They're not ragdoll physics, which I think looks so much better. I really appreciate that they're not just ragdolling your character. I really like the canned animations. I think they work so much better. Sean, hello. Um, Jared says, I've spent 30-ish hours on it or so. I just know there are several unfinished things pointing to monsters that aren't in, like, not HR for the boss. Finished things pointing to monsters that aren't in, like, not HR. I don't know what that last bit means. Um, Jared says, I did find that there's a card animation in the game. There is a card animation. There's two animations. There's one where the the ambulance cat will take you back on your bird and then just dump your ass on the floor and drown you in some healing goo. And there actually is a cart too. Um, and what's interesting is you can find the paramedic cats hanging around the various camps, which I think is a nice touch. They're actually there. If you look around the campsites, you'll find the medic cats just hanging out, which I think is a great little touch. Oh, also another fun bit is Rove. I was out in the Ice Shard Cliffs. I found his ass webbed to the ceiling. Apparently, a Nursilla caught him again at some point. It's like, because I heard him talking, I'm like, hell is he? Oh, there he is. He's hanging from the ceiling in a web. I had to use my slinger to get him down. He's like, I live another day. Thank you, Hunter. And he waddles off. I thought that was hilarious. Sean says, there's a couple of monsters that were supposed to be in the game at launch, but they didn't finish them in time, so now they're going to be in an update. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. There were, let me read the rest of what you're saying. Those chains of Arkfeld have a long reach. Yeah, I've been caught off guard by a couple of AoE attacks that go a lot further than you think they're going to go. Chotacabra is just not powerful enough to really do anything to you unless you're not wearing any armor, I guess. But uh, he's knocked me on my ass a couple of times just because he punches the ground and he releases a little bit of a shockwave around where, I sidestepped and he missed, but I still fell over because he hits the ground hard enough to knock you over if you're within a couple of feet. So you have to be wary of that. New Udra, the big octopus thing, when it does its big flame spit, that thing goes really far. Because I ran away, and I'm like, oh, flame spit, and I ran away, and I start chugging health, and it keeps coming. I'm like, oh no, I'm on fire now. Arkveld has several AoE attacks with those chains. You think you're far enough away? Maybe not. I'm like, oh, I'm far enough away. And the chains don't reach me, but then the dragon energy explodes in front of him. I'm like, haha, missed. And then a second wave, and then a third wave. I'm like, oh, come on. Who else has, like, really long attacks? A Jericon can throw, can rip up the ground and throw fireballs pretty damn far. So a lot of the monsters, their AoE and projectile attacks, Doshiguma actually, or Doshagama rather, particularly the variant, to not spoil anything, boy, that sucker hits the ground hard and rips up the ground kind of like Rajang does, and that can hit you from a lot further than you think. I think the first thing that carded me was Doshiguma, because I was trying to figure out the offset attacks, and he did an overhead slam, and I didn't actually get the attack, but we both missed each other. I'm like, oh. But then he rips the ground, it's his super move, he rips the ground out from under me, and I was at like half health at the time anyway. I'm like, oh, shoot. That didn't know that was coming. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm really liking it. There were... I excitedly watched all of the marketing, so there were very few surprises. But there were 4 monsters that I did not know was in the game. I figured there'd be a low rank boss and a high rank boss. There was just a low rank boss, no high rank boss, just Arkveld. Um, so I figured there would be one, but didn't know its name or looks or anything. Very cool. Shame you can't fight it again, at least for now. Doesn't even give it armor or anything. That's a shame. That'll probably change, but I mean, story wise, it makes sense, but I don't care. You know, I want to fight it again because it's neat, and I want to wear its tail as a hat. Um, there's one new monster that was not revealed in the marketing that was a surprise and was pretty cool. Although I figured since one monster's using a new skeleton, I figured there's probably going to be another one that uses it, and yeah. And then there's two returning monsters. Um, one of which is a favorite of mine, or a subspecies of a favorite of mine. So it was nice to see those two again. So new woo. Shiwu, the it XUWWU, that one, the not New Udra, but the other one based on the skeleton. Yeah, that one's pretty cool. That one's the only one that actually kills somebody, because someone gets et, and that's the most horrifying monster to get nommed by. That's terrifying. Oh, Shiwu will also eat you. Because I let him just devour me just to see what would happen, and yeah, you're gone. I guess it poops you out at some point because you end up surviving, but yeah, that sucker is mean. Sean says, I always hear Rove, but I never see him. Uh, if you're in the Ice Shard Cliff, try looking at the ceiling, because he might be webbed to the ceiling again. He seems to have horrible luck with Nerscylla. Let's see. Sean says, I kept carting to Jindahad's Nova move for the longest time until I figured out you had to hide behind a big block of ice. Not only do you have to hide behind a big block of ice, you have to yank that big block of ice off of the ceiling and then hide behind the big block of ice. So, yeah, that one can catch you off guard if you don't know what's coming. What's also kind of sometimes unintuitive is sometimes I have trouble hitting Jindahad, the largest monster in the game, I think. And it's like, how can you keep missing a monster that damn large? And I think part of the problem is it's pretty mobile and it has a long stride, so it gets far away from me. And so I run across the arena. It's like, okay. And by the time I swing, it's turned around or it's moved somewhere else. I am, if anything has a choppable tail, I'm getting that tail. So, and I play single player, so unless the monster is distracted by Bob, my Palico, a lot of times the monster and I are just kind of spinning in circles as they chase its tail around and around, and it keeps trying to face me because it's aggroed onto me. It's a mess sometimes, but it's funny. Oh, also, good gravy. Make sure you've got uh some slinger ammo equipped when playing against Arkveld, because that sucker grabs. Very grabby, Arkveld is. Very, very grabby. Um, very cool monster designs. Really enjoying it. Cool map designs. Like it a lot. Having a lot of fun. Um, looking forward to to the various updates. Haven't The quests haven't been, or the weekly the event quests, that's what they're called. The event quests haven't been particularly special. They've just been fight a tempered Chatacabra and we'll get you some extra armor spheres. It's like, that's nice. Fight a Yankutku and we'll get you tickets for a cool hat, and it's a very cool hat. But there's only been like 3 event quests so far, and none of them have been like particularly interesting. One's given armor spheres, one's given food items, and one's given the tickets for the cool hat, which is like a little koala bear looking thing that hugs your head, which is hilarious. Um, a lot of times they have interesting monster mashups, or they'll have like a particularly large one or a particularly small one, and they haven't really done it. They haven't done anything like that yet, which is a shame, but it's early days yet. It's fine. Um, I actually wrote Capcom customer support and said, "Hey, there's something wrong with the texture streaming on the PS5 Pro. It's broken. It doesn't work." Maybe I'm the only person playing on the PS5 Pro, and it's only specifically broken on the PS5 Pro. I imagine of all the platforms, that's probably got the least number of people on it, on account of it being the most recent console. It just came out a few months ago, and it's super expensive. Um, but it does seem to putting it on frame rate mode does seem to alleviate the issue mostly. So that's that's something. What Sean says? What collaboration would you like to see on the level Behemoth or Leshen? I really liked the Witcher one. I thought that was phenomenal. I mean, they did a whole story for it, a little mini story with fun things you could do. Like you could save the Pookie Pookie and get it to fight the Leshen with you at the end. That was super cool. Um, Behemoth was Behemoth was cool, but it was clearly like Kolv Taroth and Safi Jiva. It was meant to be played with multiple people, and I don't play with others. Um, but with Wilds, you have the ability to send up an SOS flare and bring NPC characters in. I haven't done that, but there are several points in the story where you fight with Olivia, and so if they release, so if they release a monster like, Safi Jiva or Kolv Taroth or something that's meant to be played with multiple people, I might be able to actually play them this time. Because I can just use NPC characters. And I know that technically you can beat like Behemoth and stuff solo. I can't. That's beyond my skill level. I can't. I can't solo Behemoth. I my issues with those fights were like I could survive, but I could not kill them in. I think the quests are all like 30 minutes. I think they've got somewhat of a restricted time limit. I couldn't beat him within the time limit. It's possible to do it. I couldn't do it. So I never beat Behemoth. I never beat Kolv Taroth. Never beat Safi Jiva, which is a shame, but dems the breaks. But yeah, I'd love to see more collaborations on that level. But also I think some of the fun little outfits and stuff. I really enjoyed the muscles, the bodybuilder skin that they did for World or Iceborne, which was basically they put you they it was a full suit, but it was just it was armor, but it looked like you were just incredibly muscular and just wearing posing trunks, which was hilarious. And the if I'm remembering correctly, the event quest for that was, I think you had to beat two Furious Rajangs in the arena. And it's like, yeah, if you can do that, then you can wander around in your posing trunks all muscular like. I'm like, that's hilarious. One of the things I constantly did was I just wore the legs, you know, and it looked like Leslie was running around without pants, but she never skipped leg day, so no one was gonna say anything. Um, I love that. One of the things I find kind of amusing about the game is everyone calls your character Hunter, like, and of course they do because they can't record 1,000 or more different names. So I guess my head can't, but it's so impersonal. I'm not a newbie. I'm part of the family. Everyone's on a first name basis, but they just call me Hunter. It's so impersonal. So my head canon is my character's name is Leslie Hunter, and they're just, it's just a thing that stuck. Everyone just uses their last name. Maybe there's another Leslie around and it got confusing, so she just goes by her last name. Or it's just kind of funny that, her name's Leslie Hunter and she ended up being a hunter. It's like having the surname Baker and just going into the food industry. So Leslie Hunter and Bob. It's better than Pard. Stop calling me that. But that's kind of the problem when you can name your own character and other characters have to talk to you. All right? So it's probably a factor in the reason why the Zelda games are not voiced as much as they could be. I think the Tears of the Kingdom, I think the flashback scenes that Link isn't in. Oh no, I don't. You don't actually rename Link's character in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, do you? Maybe you don't. Because in most of the games, you can name Link whatever the hell you want, and they'll just replace the text with whatever you put in there. I know you can at least do that in Wind Waker. So that's a drawback to to having fully voiced cutscenes and stuff with a character that you can name, is they don't know what the hell you're going to name the character. So I mean, they could try doing something where they could just like have all the actors just record every phoneme and then try to put them together so that it sounds like your name. And it would probably just come out like they were using a really weird accent, but maybe that would work. Who the hell knows? So anyway, I'm really the biggest problem I have with Monster Hunter Wilds is it's a technical mess, at least on the PS5 Pro. The textures, if you follow me on social media, I put in a couple video examples, and it is horrifically broken. It's really distracting. Luckily, I'm at the point of the game where there's no more cutscenes, so I don't have to worry about the background and the characters' outfits popping in and out of decent resolution. Oh well. So, I think that's where we'll call it for tonight. Tomorrow we'll return to Trails of Cold Steel. I was thinking about doing the Stella Garten and the coffee shop, the fortune cookie coffee shops for each of the characters, but that would take hours because there's like 12 different characters. And so you'd have to go through Stella Garten 12 times. Then you'd have to go through the coffee shop 24 times because you can get a luck fortune and a romance fortune. And I'll probably go through all of them on my own time, but I don't think I want to go through that. That would take half of the stream to do that. And you also have to skip you have to, especially Stella Garten, you have to walk all the way to the center each time. I don't know, that would probably take way too long. So, all right, we will continue with Trails of Cold Steel tomorrow. So, hope you're looking forward to that. Till then, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.